I want parents to wake up here. 11-year-old boys are in counseling for porn addiction. We basically have no regulation of pornography anymore.
I'm a sexual assault nurse examiner. I took care of a 5-year-old as she had been sexually assaulted by her 12-year-old brother, and we found violent porn on his phone.
If 90% of pornography is showing violence towards women, and pornography is setting the arousal template for children today, what are we creating as a society?
It's really not if a child sees porn, it's when.
Parents have to start to demand that this content be shut down.
Pornography, absolutely, 100% is demonic. I also know that the God we serve is way bigger than this, and he is actively involved in bringing healing and hope and salvation to us.
Where sin abounds, grace abounds even more.
All God asks of you is faithfulness.
Then conquer we must, for our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust.
We need desperately to have men and women of courage and discipline, for courage and discipline are contagious.
At the Core podcasts are available at afr.net. Now, back to At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to The Core here on American Family Radio. This is our Friday edition, our last segment, and we typically have Chris Woodward in with us, but we have a special guest today. Chris is out. We have Heidi Olson in with us. Heidi is founder and president of Paradigm Shift Training and Consulting. She's also featured in one of our latest Impact series, episode 5, where we travel around the country and interview people who are in the trenches, helping to protect families and advance Christian values in our culture. Heidi, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm glad you've been doing your rounds on the radio all day, so by now you should have it all figured out.
It's been really fun.
Yeah. So let's talk about your background and your work. Obviously, we'll talk about the Impact series, which you're featured in episode 5, but give us a little background on your story, your work, and how you ended up in this space, and talk a little bit about the space that you're in, because people may not know.
Yeah, I'm a sexual assault nurse examiner, specifically with kids, so kids 0 to 17. Most people don't know that exists, so it's sort of a type of nursing where you're providing medical care meets the criminal justice system. So we collect evidence and we aid in helping when a child's experienced sexual assault. It's really heavy, of course,
Sure.
But I've been doing that for about 11 years, and then about 4 years ago, I decided to start my own business just to raise awareness around the different trends and issues that I'm seeing and just things that we aren't talking about but are impacting our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this victimization of children is a very broad subject. I've just become kind of briefed on it in the last few years as we've been working on legislation to protect minors online. So like age verification laws, I know you're familiar with all of this. But a lot of as you know, I'm talking to the expert here, but our audience, for their benefit, a lot of the exposure, not all, but a lot of the exposure here for children is online. Some of it's obviously a family member or a friend that abuses the children, but some of it is also like online predators. And so we've been working in this space trying to make sure that kids aren't accessing websites they shouldn't, things like that. But this is a growing problem, but it's already a big problem. I mean, I think there's a couple things going on here. To your point, this is a very hard subject. No local news channel wants to cover this,
right,
at least for more than like 60 seconds,
mm-hmm.
Because it's so heavy. But it's got to be spoken about. I mean, just like the issue of abortion, this has to be talked about because kids are being victimized all around the country via trafficking and otherwise. So talk a little bit about the scale of this problem and how it's not just, a one-off instance here and a one-off instance there. This is a very widespread problem.
Yeah, when you look at statistics, researchers estimate about 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will experience sexual assault before their 18th birthday. That's a massive amount of kids in our country. And what I found in being a forensic nurse is that a lot of kids are experiencing sexual abuse at the hands of other kids. And that's something we never talk about. I mean, think about the amount of shame that's involved if a brother sexually assaults his sister. I mean, no one wants to talk about that. Who's going to want to play with your kids? You know, it's just this secret that we all keep, but it's happening at really high rates. So when I was working in the hospital, we collected data on this. And we found that at any given year, anywhere from a third to half of our offenders were kids themselves, primarily males between the ages of 11 and 15. And porn is playing a huge role in all of this. You know, there's lots of reasons why a child will sexually assault another child. But in today's day and age, with porn being everywhere, it's teaching kids a sexual script. So I'm watching this content constantly. Now I want to act it out on someone. Well, the opportunity is right in front of me with my 2-year-old sibling. You know, so that's really what we're seeing play out over and over again. And parents have no idea this is happening until the trauma occurs between the siblings. And then it's like, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah. I'll never forget this story my grandfather, Don Wildman, told, and this goes back to the 80s to show how long this has been a problem. But this goes back to the pornography magazines in the homes. And I'm not going to give every detail for multiple reasons, but number one, I can't recall it all. But the essence of the story he told when he was speaking at this event, my grandfather, is that there was this instance where local news reported on a pair of brothers who were well underage. I mean, these kids were not over 10 years old. And they found their mother's pornography magazine, and then they were staying at home with their little sister who was like under 2 years old, and they began acting out this stuff, and the little girl died. She died right there. And so, but it was because the hard pornography in the magazine that the mother left at home with the kids, and then before you know it, somebody's dead, a little girl's dead. And so that's just one horror story that goes back to the 80s, maybe even before that. But now we've got the era of the internet. All these kids got these phones in their hands, for better or worse, and the access to pornography. Once again, we're talking to Heidi Olson here. The access to pornography is rampant and at much younger ages. Correct.
So depending on the study you're looking at, you know, on average, kids are exposed to porn between the ages of 8 and 11. But I've seen kids as young as 3 years old who are being exposed to pornography online. And so the reality is, if you hand a kid a device, there is a chance they will be exposed to pornography. So if you're handing your 3-year-old a device or whatever, absolutely something could pop up they're not supposed to see. And so we need to be having conversations. I think sometimes there's this thought of like, well, they're too young or whatever. If we're going to let them access the internet, then we need to be prepared for what they could see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hammer home as many times as I can just to delay giving your children devices. I mean, as long as you can. My wife and I talk, and we're just like kicking the can down the road. We joke and like, yeah, when they're 25, they can have a phone. Of course, we're joking, but we're talking like, yeah, when they need a phone because they're like not with us. So now we're talking like driving age. Right. So, and I talked to, now this is social media, but I talked to Dr. Jessica Peck, who's on our radio network. I'm sure you spoke to her earlier. She doesn't recommend social media usage until they're 18. Just because there's so much emotions involved and peer pressure and bullying, not to mention, blackmail through sexual abuse and otherwise. There's just not any benefit to exposing these teenagers to this World Wide Web. It's just not any benefit there because you can get your social skills somewhere else. Let's talk about the Impact Series because that's why you're here. The website, by the way, folks, to check out the video episode we've produced with Heidi, you can go to afa.net/protect, afa.net/protect. But give us a little glimpse into this Impact Series episode.
Yeah, it was such an honor to be featured. And really what we addressed was, what are all the different ways that pornography is impacting kids in today's day and age? Because it's not like Playboy from 30, 40 years ago, which from your story obviously had horrific, implications. Mm-hmm. The ante has been upped. Yeah. And now we've got AI, right? Like it's just getting more and more ubiquitous. And the ways that children are being harmed by pornography are horrific. And it's normalizing exploitation. It's teaching girls, hey, you should be a porn star. This is great. Watch all these girls on OnlyFans who are making millions of dollars. And if you're a boy, you should engage in sexual violence because that's what girls like in porn. How is this going to impact kids as they become adults? How do they have healthy relationships, right? I mean, it's just impacting every facet. So we talk through that in the Impact series, and we want to leave people with hope, right? I think this can feel so overwhelming and so heavy. And the reality is there is hope, there's redemption, there's healing, and we want parents to have that message as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad we're doing this episode because this is a very large thing to try to conquer. And but to your point, there's something parents and grandparents can do about this because I mentioned in my show a couple weeks ago that the device is the gateway when we're talking about digital pornography and being abused online, or these predators that are seeking young kids online. The device is the gateway, and so I think parents get overwhelmed that I don't know about all the security settings, and I don't know what social media profiles the kids have. Well, let's just pare it down to keeping it simple, and that is, does your kid have access to a device and when?
Yes.
Because if you can control the access to the device, that's half of the battle, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
These companies do not make it easy to put parental controls in place. I mean, it's very difficult. And so I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. But I would encourage parents, if your teenager or young adult does need an electronic device, study up or have someone study up on these safety settings, because there's obviously these technology companies can do so much more to prevent this stuff. They've got plenty of tools at their disposal to prevent a lot of this filth on the internet. But there are some safety settings on some of these devices that parents can use. So we encourage them to just study up on them, have somebody study up on them if you're not comfortable. Heidi, what would you say is the most common means of which these children are victimized? Is this on like your common social media platforms? Where are kids being exposed to a lot of this harmful content?
Yeah, I would say X is a huge one, or formerly Twitter. Mm-hmm. There is so much pornography on that website and almost no parameters, and very much because X is like, we're this free speech platform now. Pornography is protected under free speech, which is mind-blowing to think about that statement.
It shouldn't be, but it is. Yeah.
And really no parameters of, click a box, yes, I'm 18, that's it. So a lot of kids talk about being exposed on X. Instagram, Snapchat. Yes, sometimes they go onto porn sites, but I would say social media more than anything, or friends, right? Sending them things, or kids sending naked pictures to each other and opening that door. So lots of different ways, but social media is a huge one.
How do you counsel and parents on how to have these conversations?
I say it's simple, but it's not easy, which is we need, as soon as you hand a kid a device, even if it's your phone to play with, then you need to talk about this. So if that's your 3-year-old, talk about it in an age-appropriate way.
Sure.
Frequently. So just little tiny touch points throughout the week. Remember, if you see anything like this, please tell mom and dad so that we know we can talk about it, we can externalize it, we can protect you, versus we talked about it once, there was a lot of shame, that kid's never going to circle back around. Now they've viewed porn for 5 years, and by the time you realize it, they're having anxiety and depression and all of these other issues. Yeah. And so I think talking about it very frequently and knowing this is a safe space. We can talk about it. You're not in trouble if you see this or if it pops up, and we will deal with it when that happens.
Yeah, that's good. To your point, the concept is simple, like, hey, I need to address this with my kids, but then having the actual conversation, I would say the younger the better, right? Because when they get teens and young adults, they start acting like they know it all. So the younger you can start the conversations, the better.
Yes.
When you're still in a place of authority in their life. We're talking to Heidi Olson. Heidi's got an extensive background in dealing with children who have been abused or have abused others. Her title is founder and president of Paradigm Shift Training and Consulting. Heidi's featured in our latest episode of Impact Series. This is going to be episode 5, afa.net/protect is that URL, afa.net/protect. Well, Heidi, tell our folks how they can find more about your work and read more about what you do.
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's paradigmshift.tc.com. I should have picked an easier name to spell, but I did not. So
right.
There we have it. You can also just Google me, Heidi Olson. My last name is Olson, and I should pop up, and you can find information on me. So please go to my website. You can book an appointment with me there. I'd be happy to help however I can.
Excellent. This is Heidi Olson. Paradigm Shift is her organization. You can just simply Google that, Paradigm Shift. And get her website there. Heidi, last question. Are you staying busy? Like, are you seeing an uptick in parents and adults wanting to be kind of studied up on this stuff?
It comes and goes in waves.
Yeah.
So I've been busy lately because legislative sessions are in session in different states.
Have you been testifying?
I have been.
Okay,
I just
good.
testified in Maryland last week. I've testified in Kansas and Missouri and submitted testimony in Minnesota this session.
Okay.
So that's been great on different bills related to online safety and age verification.
Sure.
So there is an uptick sometimes, and then there's other times where I feel everyone wants to put their head in the sand and they don't want to have this conversation. So it ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Are you still, I saw you're an RN and many other things as well. Are you still practicing your original field you mentioned early on about the counseling and identification and stuff?
So I've taken the last year off, which has been so good for my nervous system. And I'm actually about to jump back in, hopefully with a different program than the one I was in the next couple of months.
Yeah, this has got to be, I hear about law enforcement detectives that are assigned to child victimization. The units are sometimes they're just flying solo if it's a small agency. But it's got to be very difficult to keep your sanity.
Yeah,
dealing
it's
with
heavy.
this, right?
I'm thankful that the Lord brings healing and redemption and truth.
Amen. Praise God for that. Heidi Olson, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Heidi Olson, she's featured in our latest Impact Series episode 5. We've got a great article in our Stand magazine that we'll link to as well that our own Maisie Warren, who helped produce this series, by the way, our episode, wrote about Heidi and her work and a little bit of backgrounder on this episode 5 here. So we'll link to that in the show notes, but glad to be with you today. afa.net/protect is the URL to find more out about this episode. We'll see you next time.